Hello everyone and welcome to Mrs Hill's revision class. Today I'm going to be talking to you about analysis because analysis, what a minefield. In fact, we tell you all to include so many things in your analysis that I should think your brain probably feels like it's going to explode most of the time. But that is actually exactly what analysis should do. So after reading the text or key quotations, your mind should be starting to explode with ideas. And these ideas are your interpretation of the text. And that means your personal opinion. And that's actually linked to one of the assessment objectives. They want you to be able to read pieces of literature or sources in the language exam and have an opinion about them. And these ideas will have been inspired by words that the writers used or choices that they've made when they've put the text together. And that's basically what analysis is. It's you considering which of the words or which of the choices created your opinions and starting to unpick how they've helped you come to that conclusion. So first of all, let me introduce you to this little beauty. Here is an analysis frame, and it should help you to plan and structure your analysis, particularly in the exam or maybe just in class when you're looking at key quotes or at home. It should really help you to make sure that you put a quotation at the heart of your analysis, because I know sometimes you've got so many things to process, it can be difficult to remember to do that. And hopefully it should also make you really consider precise parts of the quotation and give a detailed analysis. So I'm just going to talk you through how it works, okay? In the middle here, in this circle, you just place the quotation that you think is important from the text. Make it as precise as you can. If you can, make it perceptive, so that means picking a quotation that perhaps other students might overlook, not always going for the obvious. Although I'm going to be using slightly longer quotes today because obviously I want to illustrate that technique to you. You're going to want to shorten them down, I would imagine, for the exam. And then in this square frame around here, this beautiful space is where you put all of your wonderful ideas. And I'm going to show you how you can structure that and how you can explain your analysis in a little bit more detail if that's something that you perhaps find a little bit difficult. And we're going to follow some really simple steps in order to do that. They're steps that I'm sure my students can now say off by heart pretty much in their sleep, I should imagine. So we're just going to start by beginning with a highlighter, and we're just going to highlight keywords or phrases in the quotation. I'm not going to feature spot, I'm not going to look for techniques first of all, I'm going to look for words that I think are powerful, and then I will start to identify techniques from there. So don't kind of fall into the trap of just thinking you need to find a metaphor or you need to find a simile or something like that. And then I'll be zooming in on those words and answering these 4 questions to make sure that I analyse them in detail. So the first one is which. Which types of words or language techniques have been used in that quotation? Are the highlighted words a particular word type? Or are they a particular language feature? What? What do they make the reader think or feel? So that's what's their effect. How? How do the words create that effect? Do they have a specific denotation? So that means their actual meaning. A connotation, something we associate with them. Or a tone, so the way they sound. If you're looking at a literature text, it could be that they link to something else somewhere in the novel or something that someone said. And why? Why is the writer making that choice? How do they want you to react? Or how does it link to a particular theme or a particular issue that they're exploring in the text? The how step is the really important part. That's the bit where you're analysing. And if you want to hit those higher grades, that's going to be the bit to focus your attention on. So we're just going to take a little look. You can draw it out with me if you want to. If you want to pause and stop my irritating voice and draw this diagram, please feel free. And this is the quotation we're going to have a little look at. So it's one from the American novel of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. And it's from the first description of the character called Curly's wife. We're going to use it to consider the reader's first impressions of that character. So if you want a question to help you structure it, just imagine that you've been asked, how is Curly's wife presented? And let's get started. So the quote reads, she had full rouged lips, she was heavily made up, her fingernails were red. I've obviously used ellipsis there just to delete parts of the quote that I don't really want. That could be something you could do in the exam if you want to make your quotation a little bit more precise. Right, I'm going to start by highlighting words that stand out to me. So the first thing that's captured my interest is the word red. Which word type is that? Have a little think to yourself. I'm going to label that as an adjective. And it's been used more than once, so I'm actually going to be labelling it as repetition of an adjective. And the next step is obviously going to be the what. So I feel like it creates a negative first impression of that character. That's my what. How? Well, it all lies in the connotation. So that's associated meanings or linked meanings with the word red. Because that colour has connotations of violence and danger. So for example, if you think about signs or things in science, most of the ones that are a warning or are dangerous will have a red border around them. And why? I think it could be foreshadowing, so giving a clue to something later on. If we know that she's dangerous now, then perhaps that implies that she could become a problem for another character later in the novel. It makes us a little bit wary of her, and that's obviously going to shape our reaction each time she appears in the rest of the novella, because if the reader's already a little bit suspicious or concerned about her next move, we're going to be a little bit wary of her when she appears, or we might become worried or tense. And we can deepen that analysis of her character a little further, because I can look at more than one phrase in the quotation to make sure I give depth. So this phrase, heavily made up, caught my attention when I heard the description, particularly the word heavily. And which feature is that? Well, that's an adverb, isn't it? It's a word type. So this word, well, I think it makes the reader believe that she takes a lot of care with her appearance. And she obviously likes to present herself in a particular way. How? Well, it has that denotation, so the actual meaning of something being done on a large scale, which obviously creates this impression that she takes time to prepare her appearance, that she makes people see her in a certain way, and I think that could be considered as quite a fake image. Perhaps she's not letting people know who she really is if she's taken such time to put it together. Interestingly, heavily, that can also refer to something that's done with a lot of force, can't it? So perhaps it's something that she feels pressured into, or that she's forced to maintain a certain image that perhaps she doesn't feel comfortable with, and perhaps it doesn't come naturally to her. Why? Well, Steinbeck wrote the novel in the 1930s, so we could reflect on the time in which the novella was written. It could mimic the fact that women were supposed to maintain a particular image and that they were restricted over their own choices. It might link to the sexualisation of women and the way that they were seen by the male sex at the time. And they would be the things that I would then turn into a PEA chain, which I'm going to give you a little video for later. Control your excitement. But they would be my planning notes. When we say to you plan, that's what I would be doing with key quotations from the extracts. So I'm going to hand it over to you now. It's going to be your turn. Grab some paper and a pen. Pause the video whenever you need to, by the way. And have a little go with the analysis diagram. So I would say draw it out for me first. If you want to pause after, obviously that's fine. And then here's the writer's first description of a character called Lenny. It's from the same text, so from Of Mice and Men. I want you to analyse the quotation using the steps that I've just shown you to see what you think it reveals about the character. Again, if you need a question, you could use how is Lenny presented. Okay, and the quotation is, a huge man, he walked heavily, dragging his feet a little the way a bear drags his paws. So pause the video here. Grab your highlighter, grab your pen and go through those 4 questions with some key words or techniques. So which, what, how, why. What did you come up with? Maybe you considered the fact that the bear had connotations of strength and anger. And maybe you thought about what that might suggest about his role within the novel or his temperament. Perhaps you zoomed in on the word dragging and the lack of effort that was implied in it and thought about how he might handle certain situations or what he might like to be around. What next? Well, you take these ideas and you generate your paragraph. So as I said, get ready for another exciting video on PEA chains. Woohoo! We all love a PEA chain. Perhaps you might want to have a little practice of that with some key quotes from the exam. Go through your notes that I'm sure your teachers have given you, get out your revision guides, pull out some key quotations from the text that you've looked at and have a little trial of that, or have a little look at some past papers and pull out some extracts and select some key quotations. But the quote diagram, I promise you, it will help you. It will help you to think about your ideas and make sure you've got enough detail in there for those higher grades. I hope it's been useful. I hope my voice hasn't been too irritating, because this is just a very strange experience, isn't it? And I wish you luck with your analysis. Hopefully you'll come back for the PEA chain video. Bye everyone.